Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Deal with D and J. I'm your co-host Jacob Pearl. Alongside me is DJ McCatherine. DJ, how are you doing? Before I got some breaking news for the people, but go talk to me about how you're feeling here today.
How are you going to say that there's breaking news and then put me under the gun? That's not how breaking news works, Jacob. So let me toss it back to Jacob real quick so we can
Right.
hear this breaking news.
All right, we're adding a third member to the podcast. He is going to be our Jeff Passan, maybe Tim Kirchin per se. He's actually an original member of the Pen. Way back when. It's Drew McDonald. I want to make the official announcement today that he will be doing our baseball coverage, and he'll be coming on in the summertime where he's going to be cranking out baseball content on the TikTok, really developing his own sense of style. And then he's going to jump in here with me and DJ, or just me and or DJ, talk some baseball, talk about where things are heading. Who do we like? Who do we don't like? What do you think are happening? Who do prospects keep an eye on? He's really dialed in that space, and he can really help me and DJ elevate that level of where we are trying to get this show at. And he also wanted to join. He wants to give some coverage, and why not join us and rather than start all by yourself? So, DJ, what do you got to say about our main man Drew for the fans, real quick, and then let's get this show started. After you let us know how you've been.
Um, I'm doing just fine. I'd like to address the Drew first. I know that Drew is very dialed into to baseball. Like he's got numbers and stats, and his opinions are just very good as well. As far as what he thinks is going to happen. Like, he's very knowledgeable of the game of baseball, down to the ticky tack stuff. So I think that's something important and is needed. I know the game. I played for a good long time, so but stats and keeping up with the day to day of just what happens in baseball is a difficult thing to do. 162 games is a long regular season. Um, so Drew is a great addition to come help us out on this podcast. So welcome, Drew, and me myself. I'm doing good. Football season has officially wrapped up, which is a sad but kind of relieving thing to a
Brian,
sense. It is a grind in football season for college football and then the NFL too. So much going on, a lot of topics going into the summer. A lot of you got the draft coming up. You got quarterbacks and multiple players possibly retiring, and teams trying to decide what their next moves are going to be. So it's going to be an exciting offseason, and we got March Madness coming up here soon. So um, it's gonna. I mean, it doesn't really slow down, but we got a couple week break before we have to get into the grind of March Madness and the NFL play or NHL playoffs, and among other things. So I'm doing all right. Long story short.
love to see it. To circle back to the Drew bit, Drew, just what to expect content wise. He's probably going to do, top five things from yesterday's games, kind of like a daily newsletter of some sort. Nothing crazy, just maybe some stats, maybe some scores, maybe some impressive things that you'll miss from the MLB slate. He'll do that pretty much every day or as often as he can. In the days that he can't, me and DJ will try and pick up and give us our inadequate thoughts comparison to him. At least me, at least. What do I know outside of the Cardinals? Um, but like that's what you can expect from him. And then every Monday, I think the three of us, will give our power rankings on a graph, kind of like tier list of where we're seeing things go. But on the outside looking in, if anybody sees me on the YouTube looking off the screen, it's because Canada and Sweden is on the Four Nations tournament. So I'm doing my due diligence, watching some hockey, doing what I do best. And DJ, without further ado here, let's talk about the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 59 is in the books. The Philadelphia Eagles come out on top, 40-22. Now, while the Chiefs scored 22 points, it pretty much was a shutout until garbage time. Just some stats real quick. Jalen Hurts, obviously your Super Bowl MVP, right? Did it all, right? 221 yards in the air, two touchdowns, one sack. Had a QBR of 75 with a QB rating of 119.7. Led the team in rushing. Who would have thought that, right? With Saquon Barkley being what he was. 72 yards on the ground on 11 carries. Unbelievable stuff from Jalen Hurts. In comparison, let's talk a little bit about it. I believe this Eagles team, obviously, we felt like was a very, very good team. But looking back at it, they were one of the best teams in football. They
Uh,
basically, without, week 17, excuse me, basically won out after going 2-2 to start. They won every single game basically the rest of the year. That's a very, very impressive team. And they did it top to bottom. The defense was unbelievable, and everything else from top to bottom offensively. Saquon winning Offensive Player of the Year, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Grant Calcaterra, even Jahad Dotson pitching into the mix. Then you look on the
mhm.
defensive side of the unsung heroes of Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, right, Blankenship. Zach Bond, and he still got Sweat getting after it and different guys and Jalen Carter up the middle. I mean, when you put that all together as a nucleus, the only people that could stop the Eagles are the Eagles. And they had a clear vision and a clear mind, and they came into the Super Bowl, and it was B to A, top to bottom. Unstoppable force was the Philadelphia Eagles. DJ, talk to us a little bit about what you saw before we dissect the Chiefs side of things and what this could mean for them.
um, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. Belt to ass is what it was. Uh, no, you can't keep that PG because that was a rated R performance for what the Eagles did to the Chiefs in that game. It I'm looking at Patrick Mahomes' stat line here, like 21 of 32 for 257, and it's like I don't know where he got what he did in this game, right? Um, the Eagles defense was tremendous. Patrick Mahomes was quite awful, and I don't think I've had to say like there have been games that he's been like I don't want to say less productive, but less useful, if you will, right? Like they haven't needed to use him in this incredible way. The Chiefs have been one of the most underwhelming teams in the NFL all season long. So to it's weird to say that this type of performance isn't surprising, but I think people were expecting the Chiefs to be just as consistent as they've been all year long. And there was nothing about this game that showed any similarity to what they did during the regular season. None of it. I mean, they were not flashy. They did exactly what they needed to do to win ball games. They never panicked in any situation. And, for the most part, I mean, up until there was about 4 minutes left in this game, I really didn't think the Chiefs were out of it, not from a talent standpoint, right? Like I was like, after I don't even know what happened, but um, the Chiefs have the ability to score quick. They darn near got the onside kick, and I was like, wow, this is creeping into some dangerous territory here. But the Chiefs, uh, they just didn't have any of that pizzazz in them that they have had the last 2 years. Mahomes' offensive line like ceased to exist. Felt like Mahomes was running for his life. Um, and even with the sacks he took, he was still the leading rusher on their team. Like they didn't have a run game. He rushed for 25 yards.
Yeah,
And
I
I
want
don't
to
know
jump.
what the time of possession was.
Oh,
So I mean, the Eagles held on for 36 or 37 minutes basically.
I want to jump in here and talk about that run game because that was what was so prevalent in the game against the Bills and some other games where they had the run game with the play action to get Mahomes some time to make you bite on the run and focus. Like there were so many keys, and like Kareem Hunt was like a big deal for the Chiefs going into the playoffs because he's a bruiser and you give him the runs and like things can happen. And again, Kareem Hunt had 3 carries for 9 yards. Pacheco, 3 carries for 7. Pat Mahomes, 25 yards, just pure scrambling. And I think obviously we talked about the O line and we knew the O line was an issue. But man, it very, very similar from when the Buccaneers, beat the brakes off them back in, I believe, 2021. It's just like one of those things where it's like you kind of figure out the formula, which is can you beat Mahomes with getting 4 home? Because you can't get 5, right? They didn't blitz. They blitzed maybe a couple times the Eagles, but statistically they didn't blitz at all in terms of, they blitzed maybe once or twice, but got called back due to flags or whatnot. I think it's just really impressive how talented that defense was for the Eagles. Because here's the thing about Vic Fangio's defense. It's not like super complex or super disguise heavy. Like you can read his defense, be like, oh, they're playing cover three, but yet they're so talented that it makes it really, really hard to get those passes in those windows with where they were going. And for me personally, I was kind of in the same boat with you. Like, they were down 24 nothing at halftime, and you're just sitting there feeling this like, oh my gosh, are we going to get another 28-3 type game? Right.
Right.
And I think after they went up like I think 30 plus. I felt like the game was over then. It's a lot of points to come back from no matter what. And the Eagles did a great job of just sustaining long methodical drives, like 6+ minute drives, just knocking
Yeah.
the ball out of the hands. And another thing, too, the Chiefs made a lot of undisciplined mistakes. They took a
Hmm.
lot of penalties, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Offense was just kind of all over the place. Dropped passes, missed catches. Like I remember the D Hop one that was like unbelievable that he didn't catch it right.
Yeah.
That one that came to my mind. And looking back on the Eagles, like they did what they had to do, right? It felt like the game was over when they threw that deep ball to Devontae Smith and basically put the Chiefs out of their misery with a
I was
big.
coming out of halftime too, right?
Yep, that
Going
was
into halftime.
out of
Going
halftime. I was out of
out of
halftime.
halftime.
I will say it felt different when Cooper DeJean got the pick six because you're
Yeah.
like, oh, first drive, nothing happens for the Chiefs. You're like, whatever. And then they get, the Eagles are up 10-0. You're thinking nothing of it. And then Cooper DeJean gets a pick, which is unlike Patrick Mahomes. He threw, I think, 3 picks in this game. Two
Two.
intercept, 2 interceptions and a fumble. So he had 3 turnovers. And that to me was like, oh, this game's gonna be different for Pat Mahomes. And the game didn't shake out the way they wanted it to. And I think it also highlights that they like great as a team as they are. You have to have an O line, so they're going to rebuild that. The defense was okay. They couldn't really get home to Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, I give him a ton of credit, felt the pressure and got out of there. He took off and ran a ton, right? He was
Hmm.
very, very, very smart with the ball. And everybody who keeps doubting Jalen Hurts and like, is he this? Is he that? Like, the man played great football and he understood what he had to do to win ball games. That makes you a great quarterback. So I think ultimately it was a great Super Bowl in terms of like I did not want to see the Chiefs win. So I'm very
Hmm.
happy about that. And yeah, I you know, a lot of people talked about Brady versus Mahomes, and it's like Mahomes is running out of time. And it's like, I don't think so.
No.
As long as you have Andy Reid and Spagnuolo as your defensive coordinator and Matt Nagy came back as an OC, like you're gonna re-bolster the O line through the draft. You may sign another guy at wide receiver who can do you a little bit more, and you're also going to get Rashi Rice back, who is such a Swiss Army knife for that team, right? Because Xavier Worthy wasn't really ready to get the keys to the Corvette, but that guy is going to be a problem too. The way he
Hmm.
can get way back into secondary for the Chiefs. Um, and everyone talks about the
And
Bills and the Ravens, and it's like until they beat the beast, I can't count out the Chiefs and question when this is gonna end. Because remember, Brady went to I forget how many Super Bowls in whatever many years, and then he didn't go to another Super Bowl for almost like another 10.
yeah.
And then it was like he won three out of set. Like he was in another set of Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Like ultimately, like you're going to get another chance with this talented of a team, with that talented of a coach. Again, people are like, time's running out. I don't think so. I think they'll be back in it next year potentially. Just because
The
until
guy's 29 years old.
and
The
also
guy's 29 years old.
and also until we see Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson slay the beast like we did with Joe Burrow back in like 3 years ago, it's gonna be the same old right now. And I give a ton of credit to the Eagles GM too, with the way the roster is built, with a ton of these rookie contracts or lower value guys. Like the three big guys I named on the defense, Jalen Carter, Quinyon Mitchell, and Cooper DeJean, are all in their rookie contracts.
Yeah, no, they've drafted all of this help that they have. Like they're building it's a system from within that's working. So
It's
they're doing a great job at doing it. And the whole Patrick Mahomes has plenty of time, you know. And the people that say that this takes him out of the GOAT conversation is crazy. Like he's obviously creeping up there, but I still think he's got time, right? To for me, like maybe he's in the top 10. I'm not gonna say he's at 10, but he's in that conversation of top 10 right now of all time quarterbacks with what he can do, what he has done. And he's got time to make it up there. But like I think it's ridiculous. But speaking of GOAT conversations, Travis Kelce has been a big topic of conversation in this off season. 35 years old and um, will be 36 in the middle of next season. What do you, if he decides to get there, do you think he comes back? Do you think he should come back? And where does he go on your all-time tight ends list? Where does he go in that conversation for you?
Yeah, I think to answer the first part of your question, I definitely think that I don't know if he's going to come back or not. I think there's a serious like conversations probably being had behind closed doors with family, with Taylor, obviously, with Jason. And the thing is like he has a ton of opportunities outside of the game of football
Hmm.
that will alleviate a lot of the things. Now, granted, he also loves the game of football, man. And it's a hard thing to turn away as well. I think he comes back for another year just because, yeah, Patrick Mahomes, like you got to keep going until the wheels fall off almost. I will say he's getting up there. I will say like if he does come back, he's maybe got 1 or 2 seasons left in him, maybe a third. But then when's the last time you heard of a 38-year-old tight end, right?
Right,
That was still producing at a very high level, right?
right.
Maybe Antonio Gates way back in the day,
Maybe
right?
Witten.
Maybe Witten, right?
Yeah,
Like those maybe Gonzalez potentially. I don't even know if he got to 38 as a tight end, you know.
right.
Like we're talking about some guys who are up there in terms of the football longevity portion. And I think Travis Kelce, I think comes back. I mean, where does he rank for tight ends for me? I mean, quite frankly, I think he's the best tight end that I think has ever played the game. Stats will back that up. All the records he has backs that up. Just in the simple fact of what he can do on offense and on the where he can sit in zones and understand what's happening, and the way that he can understand a quarterback and the way the quarterback's going to move and be in tandem with them and be the ultimate like safety valve and be the key to consistency, right? And even when they had Tyreek Hill, he was still getting over 1,000 yards receiving all the time. Like, I definitely think he's one of the best tight ends of all time. I think he's number one for me, with Gronkowski being two. And I think
Mm,
if Gronk played a lot longer, I think Gronk could be one. But again, Travis is a great athlete and a great player, but I definitely think a lot of things are being considered given who he's dating, who how him and Jason's lives have drastically changed with the New Heights podcast, right? I definitely think there's a lot of things on the outside that will potentially try and sway him. But in the grand scheme of it, I think he comes back for at least next year, potentially another. But outside of that, I don't know if I can guarantee or put money on a third season. I think 237, hopefully get another ring with Patrick and kind of call it a career and go out, kind of like Peyton Manning did on a swan song on the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think that's great. I'm gonna, I almost want to like plead the fifth when talking about the goat for tight ends because I mean he is fantastic as a blocking receiver or as a blocking tight end in the run game, and he's obviously got the hands, right? He's not very agile with the ball, but no tight end is. So I think there's a lot uh to weigh into the conversation, but like I'm not mad at anybody that does put him at one because he is one special talent. So I hope he comes back for another year, maybe two. But I think you're right. I think stretching it's a three is a stretch. He'll probably do a 2 year with a year option. If they win next year, then I wouldn't be mad if he called it quits there because that would be a well sung career. So,
Well, let's talk what everyone loves to do the most, which is our way too early power rankings. We're only going to give our top five and the bottom five. Too many teams,
mhm.
not enough time for us. I think the easy top five, Eagles. Do you want me to go 1 through 5? One
Go
through
for
five.
it.
Let's go Eagles. Let's go Bills. Let's go Lions, Chiefs, Ravens. And then, yeah, bottom five. Let's go. I think the Raiders are going to be really bad. I like really bad. Tennessee's going to be bad. Um, hmm. Mm-mm-mm.
Jaguars.
No, I believe the Jags are gonna fix it, so I'm not worried there. Carolina, actually, no, I think the Saints are gonna be really bad again.
Mm.
I think even worse than what they were this year. I don't even care that Derek Carr comes back or they have a new coach. They're just in cap, just so much cap struggle. I'm gonna put Cleveland in there just because of the cap situation in Cleveland, aka Deshaun Watson, the cap killer. And let's go with the Giants just because you're going to have a rookie quarterback, and that doesn't always alleviate all your issues. I am very high on the Patriots. I think the Patriots are going to be a wild card team next year. You can put that down right now. Look
Whoa.
I believe in Vrabel and Drake May and what they're going to do. Um,
Drake May?
yeah, but whatever. That's a conversation for another day. That's off-season topics. DJ, give me your top five, bottom five.
I'm gonna go Eagles, and then until somebody proves me otherwise, I'm gonna go the Chiefs. Um, I'm gonna go the Lions. Um, no, I'm sorry. I'm gonna go Bills at three, Lions at four, and um, I think I like the Ravens at sitting at five. I'm pretty sure that's a pretty safe bet. Nobody else really wows me outside of those. I think the Bengals have a lot that they need to go through among other teams. And bottom five, probably gonna stick along your same line. I'm gonna go Raiders, Giants. I'm gonna go Jaguars. Um, I don't really have the faith, at least not in year one. Um, but I'll probably put New England in front of them because they've also got to prove something to me. So New England, um, I'm sorry, Raiders, Jags, New England, no, Raiders, New England, Jags, Tennessee, and the Arizona Cardinals
Hmm.
is who I'm putting in there. I think Something's got to be done with Kyler. Um, and I don't foresee them doing it. They are just in they are a struggling team. The Browns could be an honorable mention down there. I think though they are one of the teams that can make a leap pretty quick if they can find something in the quarterback room. But until that happens, they'll be down there too. So yeah, those are my picks.
Well, quick, easy, simple. Let's talk a little NBA here.
Oh yeah,
Really, the post trade deadline. I will say the one thing fascinating about the NBA is that the trade deadline is more anticipated than the actual NBA itself. Um,
right.
let's get the biggest one out of the way here. Luka Doncic to the Lakers, Anthony Davis to the Mavericks, and probably what is arguably going to be the biggest fleece of history with what the Lakers did to get Luka Doncic. I mean, unbelievable.
It's almost rather what the Dallas Mavericks did to get rid of Luca
I don't, you know,
because the Dallas Mavericks approaching LA.
yeah, I think it's crazy. One, that Nico just did this like behind closed doors. Like Jason Kidd didn't know about it until literally his exact words was he didn't know about it until the 11th hour. So
Right.
the deal was in place. And I'm gonna play devil advocate for both sides, right? How this works,
Hmm.
how it's good for both teams, how it's bad for both teams. Okay.
Hmm.
And just follow me. If you're not following me, speak up. But I think I it's good for the Dallas Mavericks in absolutely no way possible. All right. There's nothing good. I can't talk about anything good about this trade for the Dallas Mavericks. Nothing. Nothing. Okay,
No, I don't think I agree with that.
you find positives in this trade for Dallas?
I mean, in short run, I think acquiring Anthony Davis with the caveat that he's healthy, and it's just such a great coincidence that in his first game he has to
Dude,
sit out for
again,
2 to 3
again,
weeks with an
again,
injury.
again, there's nothing good. Look at this. You see this? You see this on my hand? What's there? Nothing. Because there's nothing good about what the Mavericks did. Because listen, Luca is 25, slightly older than us, DJ. Maybe he's your age, actually. How old are you?
No,
24, 25?
you turn 25 before I do, buddy.
Oh, I do? That's right. You're an
I
August
think.
birthday. I forgot about that. No? July?
Are you not a March baby?
I am March. When's your birthday?
Yeah, I'm the 20th.
You're before me. Ding dong.
Oh, are you the 25th?
Yeah, I'm the 25th. Side tangent. Great podcasting, all-time sports podcast here. There's nothing good, right? Because he's 25, he's the face of your franchise, right? And it has the ability to take over games and be this thing and be unbelievable for you, right? And I guess I've been reading a lot about it. I've been listening to it. Like I've been listening to Rosillo and some other guys like Windhorse and SVP, some other guys on the offbeat, just trying to figure out like why did the Mavs move on? And the only thing I can find out is that Nico Harris wants to win through defense because he saw what Boston did. And I think that is what he is kind of trying to obtain. Now,
Okay.
granted, you're in the NBA though. You need to score points, and now you're leading. Like you trade your leading scorer slash face of your franchise
Us facing the NBA.
potentially, and you give them to the Lakers, and you get back Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and I think they got a 2031 first. Congrats, you're
I think it's
getting
a
a
29.
29. You're getting a kid that's not even in high school yet, potentially, like a middle schooler right now. Um,
Hmm.
and for me, it's like, why would you do that? And the only thing I can come up with is Nico doesn't want Luka on the defensive side. And another thing I saw that maybe like made some sense is that they look like the injury that Luka currently like had. Um, maybe it is more nagging or it's going to be a bigger issue in the long run than anyone anticipates. which is
Mm,
the only one that made sense to me. But you traded Luca. If that's your argument, is the injury worry, you traded him for the most injury prone guy in the NBA and Anthony Davis.
right,
That's the confusion. Now, Anthony Davis came into Dallas and was spectacular when he was healthy. 13 points in, I think, 20 plus minutes on the court. Then he injures himself and now he's out for 2 to 3 weeks. Like what more is he supposed to do?
right.
Right. So like looking at it on that side of things, like maybe it's like that, but I don't see how this pans out for Dallas. And like you didn't even get Austin Reeves. You didn't get Dalton Connect. Like you didn't even get Finney Smith. Like you got Max Christie. Go put the fries in the bag, bro. Like Nico Harris, bro, you're toast. Right? You also just ravaged your whole fan base. Give Now you're giving
Yeah,
back season tickets and all this crap. Ravaged your whole fan base. Lakers side of things. LeBron, Luca, Austin Reeves, uh, Dalton Connect, Finney Smith looks like a very good team. Can score the ball a ton. The one thing you lack now is size, but I think they're trying to sign some dudes onto the team and add to the length.
yep,
But now it's like he has a true number one guy that can take the weight off his shoulders and can go win games. And like, I think that's the biggest thing is like, remember LeBron was with Kyrie and he wanted Kyrie to like try and take the reins from him or whatever it was. And then Kyrie's like, no, I don't want to take the reins from you. I'm going to go do my own thing. And then he wanted it from Anthony Davis. And Anthony Davis didn't want to do it. Right. So, like, I think for the Lakers, it's a win. You're getting a guy that is, you were worried about what's life after LeBron, where you have Luka Doncic. So, like, now granted, we don't know if Luka will stay in LA or if he will go want to sign somewhere else in this free agency, but like I'd be hard pressed to leave the Lakers when the plan in place is for you to take over to be the face of the franchise and be their guy and like don't and you know what I mean? So like
yeah.
it was a mind-boggling trade. It might be arguably some are asking like what like is there a bigger trade than this? And I think the only answer is Gretzky to the Kings. I think it's the only answer. This might
Mm,
be the second biggest trade of all time. It's definitely the biggest trade in the NBA.
yeah, no, I thought at least what I think with what you said, the trade makes more sense than people like to believe, outside of the fact that AD is, you know, injury prone, right? Because you get that elite defender, right? And he's an elite inside offensive, um, basically powerhouse, right? With the ball in his hands, he can give you 20 and 20 any given night that he's healthy. Um, and with Luca having that supermax coming up too, which he was going to be eligible for like $335 million, probably played a little bit of that part too. But you also have two people that require the ball in their hands in Dallas, which was Kyrie and Luca, and you have Klay Thompson sitting there as well, who doesn't require the ball on his hands because he's a catch and shoot type of person. But I mean, looking at it, or me looking at it, I'm like, I don't know how that works. How do three people that require the ball, you know, pretty much at all times, how does that work together? And I think again, the Mavericks, if AD stays healthy, could be a very dangerous team to make a deep run, right? I still don't like. I would have to know what Luca's injury was and the likelihood of him re-injuring it, um, for the Mavericks to agree to such little, to give away Luka Doncic, because it is like you said, the most ridiculous trade that I think I have ever seen. Um, I do think there are things to benefit from both sides, but things also have to pan out for both teams. Like I think the Lakers are going to need to get a center, whether they sign Dwight Howard out of free agency or Oklahoma actually gets rid of Steven Adams because I heard that was a potential.
Steven
Um,
Adams, I don't think is on OKC anymore.
no, did they officially drop him?
He hasn't been in OKC for years.
Who was he with?
He was with Memphis before. I think he's now with.
The
mm,
Rockets. I'm sorry.
he's with Houston now.
Yeah.
But I want to jump in here, and it's like I agree. It's probably the craziest trade of our lifetime, just because there was no rumors, there was no leaks. They kept it under wraps, and it's like, well, if your goal was to trade Luca, why wouldn't you shop him? Get more for him. I bet you there's some teams like Kevin Durant. When the Suns traded for Kevin Durant, got 4 first round picks. The Nets got 4 first round picks. When the Wizards traded Bradley Beal, though, I think they got 3. Like
right.
you got one in Anthony Davis. Congrats, bro. Again, Nico Collin put the fries in the bag, bro. You're gonna be out of a job soon.
Right.
But I digress. Some other big NBA trades. Before I lose my mind here.
Jimmy
Jimmy Butler
Buckets.
goes to the Golden State Warriors. The Heat receive Andrew Wiggins, Kyle Anderson, and Davion Mitchell via the Raptors, 2 from the Warriors, and a protected first round pick from the Warriors. The Jazz receive Josh Richardson, KJ Martin, a couple picks in cash. Pistons receive Waters and Schroeder, and the Raptors receive PJ Tucker, and the Warriors receive Jimmy Butler, 2 second round picks and cash consideration. So a lot of people had their foot in a lot of chefs in the kitchen. But the ultimate thing to take away is Jimmy Butler is now on the Warriors. The Warriors just continue to get aged veterans and stars. I don't think this does anything for them because Jimmy Butler is going to want the ball in his hands, but Steph Curry's there. Um,
Right.
and it doesn't really flow into the style of offense that they play. Personally, I'm interested to see how this even pans out for them. But for the Heat, you got a ton for him. I mean, if you're the Heat, I mean, you got Andrew Wiggins, who's great depth. Kyle Anderson's great defender. Davion Mitchell's a young rising star given the opportunity. Then you have and then you get a first round pick that's protected from the Warriors. I mean, it's a win there. Any thoughts there before I kind of just want to rip through some of this, but
No thoughts. I think Jimmy Butler's a great addition. Contrary to what you said, I think he doesn't need, or I think he's going to receive opportunities on the Warriors that he didn't get um, with Miami, um, because he is, the most heavily guarded individual on the court when he was there, as he has been on his other teams as well. So I think this is going to be a unique opportunity for him to really try to play his game. And I think he fits in rather well. I don't think he needs to be the one, right? Bringing the ball up the court. And, I think he'll play well with Steph. I can actually think and like imagine a resemblance of how would play with Curry in that same way. Jimmy Butler's going to fit in um, into that type of role. So I like it, and I'm going to move on to another trade for you because the Cavs trade for DeAndre Hunter. The Hawks received quite a good bit. But the Cavs really received a shooter and somebody who's really consistent in DeAndre Hunter. And the Hawks received Karis LeVert, Georges Niang, 3 second round picks and 2 pick swaps. God, some of these trades just make Dallas look really, really stupid.
I
Like
mean,
really stupid.
I love the
But
trade. I love the trade for Cleveland. I think it adds an extra depth piece, especially if you want to go one big. Like DeAndre Hunter is a very versatile player. You can put him at 3, you can put him at the 4.
right,
If you really want to go super small ball, you can put him at the 5. But he was averaging
right,
18 points a game down in Atlanta. He's not going to average that for Cleveland just because there's too many mouths to feed.
Right.
right? But I think it adds great depth. I think it adds another layer. And really, like you have to build to beat the Celtics. And I think that's a move to really help you beat the Celtics. Not in the
Hmm.
sense of like he's gonna go be a game winner for you, right? But if you're looking at, Cleveland and what they're doing, it's hard pressed to not go against the mindset of like we need to add some depth, we need to add some players. What's the best way to do that when you have, Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland? I mean, you have Jared Allen and Mobley who are averaging over 120 points a game. Now you add DeAndre Hunter into the mix, and he's really bringing you some good stuff. You still have Strus coming off the bench. Like I really like this move. Now, granted, you're giving up a little bit in terms of Karis LeVert from the shooting guard side of things, but you needed to add another piece, and I think it's a great move from Cleveland to go get DeAndre Hunter. I like that you brought that one up. Another
Yep.
trade that I was a super big fan of was the Spurs acquiring um, DeAndre Fox in a three-way team deal with the Bulls. The
Yeah.
the Spurs received De'Aaron Fox, not DeAndre. De'Aaron Fox, Jordan McLaughlin. The Kings received Zach LaVine, City Cisco, a ton of first round picks and a ton of second round picks. And the Bulls received Zach Collins, Herter, and Trey Jones, and a first round pick via the Spurs. I think this is a great move for the Spurs. You kind of are now accelerating the process for Wemby, which I love because
Right.
you're gonna have to get all you can out of Wemby right now, just because of the way the cap is, the way things are going, right, and how things are gonna shake out eventually in the NBA with what is now known as the second apron, aka the hard cap, because most teams don't want to go to that second apron. Um, but again, it's going to help with Wemby. I mean, Wembenyama is going to have, he has Steven Castle, you have Jeremy Sochan, Harrison Barnes, like Chris Paul's doing his thing. But now instead of now you're going from Chris Paul to De'Aaron Fox. Like that's a huge win. Huge.
Yep.
And now it's like you have two really young guards in Fox, Castle. You have a great rebounding forward in Sochan that reminds you of Dennis Rodman, right? And now you have a guy in Victor Wembanyama who's the alien. So I thought that was a beautiful trade by the Spurs. And obviously there was a ton of trades this trade deadline, but those were the big
Right.
three essentially. I want to touch upon my Memphis Grizzlies who traded a bunch of people for absolutely nothing, so that was super cool. I mean, Marvin Bagley, great, and Johnny Davis, cool. Like I don't really, that's great. Hope you like averaging nothing, brother. Marvin Bagley, didn't even know you were in the league, brother. Congrats. Now you're on the Memphis Grizzlies. Marvin Bagley the third is 25. That's insane. That boy did not pan out. Last little bit here. College basketball now is the forefront of everyone's attention. It's been on mine. I've been a true ball knower since November. DJ, welcome to
I'm
the team. Um, I'm gonna
gonna
just
keep it up
give
a little bit. I've been in there a little bit. Been
well,
in there a little bit.
I'm gonna give everybody a little rundown here. I'm just gonna list off the top 25 here, and I will go over some things in tandem with you. Number one team in the country is the Auburn Tigers, followed by Alabama. Three is Duke, and four is Florida. Tennessee is five. Houston six. Purdue is seven. A&M is eight. St. John's is number nine. Iowa State is 10. Michigan State 11. Texas Tech 12. Arizona 13. Memphis 14. Kentucky 15. Wisconsin 16. Kansas 17. Marquette 18. Ole Miss 19. Michigan 20. Missouri 21. Mississippi State 22. Clemson 23. Creighton 24. And Maryland is 25. Now, what you're thinking to yourself, if you're a basketball fan, or if you're a casual March Madness person, there's a lot of SEC teams in the mix here. So, Auburn, I think the Auburn Tigers have been easily the best team in the country. With John Broome doing what he does best and everything like he can bring to the forefront of the rebounding side and the scoring and the length and the 3-point ability to really stretch teams. Alabama can run and gun you on the 3-point side of things. Duke has Cooper Flag, which I mean, he's the best freshman. He's super athletic, super great. He's great on the defensive side of the ball, great on the offensive side of the ball. Florida, I think, is the biggest surprise in them all. DJ, I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
have you been following your Gators?
I wouldn't necessarily call them my Gators, but I
DJ, we've
would.
been we've been over this. You
We don't have.
graduated from the
You don't
University
tell me what to
of
do.
Florida. Brother, when you gave the school all the money that you had to go get a piece of paper,
Hmm
that is
hmm
now
hmm
your school. Ohio State is
hmm
also your team, but Florida
hmm
is your school.
Fine.
See what I said there? I said, do you want to talk about your school, the Florida Gators?
Fine. I got beef with Florida for anybody who doesn't know, but um,
I don't
no,
care.
I have been following
You have a
Florida.
piece of paper that says Devin. I don't know what the J stands for in your name, but it's Devin J. McCatherine on that piece of paper. I don't know your middle name either, but we don't need to get that deep.
Don't don't you dare even say my real name.
Devin. I don't even know what the J stands for. Is it
I'm
junior?
deleting it. No. Um, but Florida has been a great surprise this year, upsetting two number one teams this year in Tennessee and Auburn. Tennessee in embarrassing fashion, and then traveling. I believe they traveled to Auburn and beat Auburn. They did end up losing to Tennessee in similar fashion at Tennessee, but um, they they have had a good amount of talent that came up short in the last few years. Um, and seemingly a roster full, I wouldn't want to say of nobodies, but people that I don't think a a decently knowledge college basketball individual would know the names of these people. Um, and what oh my gosh, head coach is flanking me right now. Um,
Oh, I forget his name.
if, had
Beautiful.
Todd Golden.
Yeah.
Um, and with everything that Todd Golden has gone through this year as well, just a quick touch, he was thrown some crazy allegation at him this off season and going into this year. So like Florida basketball was just a toss up and was planning on really being another disappointing year. And they have really shocked the world. But I mean, defensive side of the ball, they've proven to be able to stop a lot of individuals. They've improved on the three ball in the last couple of years, and they've been able to utilize the paint to their advantage as well. So they're really everything Florida basketball has improved, and I think from a consistent basis, I'm proud that they actually have. I'm proud of the AP for putting them where I think they deserve to be like all year long based on their performance.
Agreed. Another team I think is surprising to a lot of people is St. John's. Rick Pitino has done absolute wonders with the Johnnies. The Red Storm have been really, really moving along. RJ Luis averaging nearly 18 points a game. They're aggressive on the boards. They're great defensively. They don't make a ton of mistakes. They're very sound basketball program. And I think that's a great surprise. And obviously, I think Texas Tech is getting a ton of love that they rightfully deserve. I think they've been one of the best teams in the country for all season with a tough break against Iowa State at home. Missouri is a very hit or miss team as well. They've had some really great wins here, DJ. Like I'm gonna tell you one of them. They beat Florida at Florida, right?
Hmm
They also have taken down ranked Ole Miss and ranked Mississippi State. But they're also starting to slip a little bit. They also have a ranked win against Kansas. But they're starting to slip a little bit with losses to Tennessee. It lost by 4 and a loss by 3 to A&M, which is a little tough. But they're going to make tournament a very tough SEC. I mean, Maryland's starting to get some momentum. Clemson with a big win over Duke recently. And it's just college basketball at its finest. Every game matters now. for whether it's conference standings, your bubble chances, like Villanova tonight being Wednesday, February 12th, just actually took down St. John's. Villanova's a pure bubble team, and a win like St. John's gets you closer to that bubble of sneaking
Right.
your way in there. And I think that's what makes college basketball great. There's tons of teams moving along too. I mean, you're looking at it, you're like, where's UConn? UConn is still as deadly as ever, but the problem with them is they don't have a true go-to guy like they used to, right?
Right.
Liam McNeely wants to be that guy, but he's just not quite there yet. Um, with Caravan and some other guys, he's not like Newton or Castle from the other two um, championship teams. And I think that's and Dan Hurley is also now the greatest villain in college basketball. Everybody hates this guy, but I still love him because he's an absolute psycho. Love him to death. Um, and I think it's going to be what it is. Marquette plays really good defense. Wisconsin's really solid. Michigan State continues to be innovative and excites, and it doesn't do anything sexy. They just get you in the paint and they just body you and they just grind you and wear you down. Tennessee is it's classic Tennessee. Shoot a ton of threes, play a ton of defense, right?
Right.
And is what it is. I mean, there's a ton of team, and the biggest thing for me too is that there's a ton of um at large teams as well. Like that I don't think enough people are also talking about. Like from the A10 side of things, like VCU and George Mason are 20 and 5 team, 20, both 20 win programs right now. 11 and 1 in the
Right.
A10, right? Looking at Louisville's 12 and 2 in the conference right now. North Carolina's
Yeah.
taking a really hard season again. I just can't with Hubert Davis. Some of the guys they're not playing well. He's trying to play too many guys, not scoring the ball. Classic stuff. I mean, we're continuing to talk about it, and there's a ton of, at large teams. Obviously, we all know about Gonzaga, right? And gosh, I'm blanking on in St. Mary's, right, as well. But there's a team like Utah State that's really great. I mean, Omaha and St. Thomas Tommies, right, in the Summit League potentially punch their ticket for the first time into this. Like you got the Dons of San Francisco fighting in the West Coast, right? And now you're looking at, the WAC, you got Utah Valley and Grand Canyon, some of these other schools that are doing a ton of stuff. And again, I think college basketball is so exciting. I love the at-large programs. I mean, there's so many teams that are at-larges right now. New Mexico, Utah State, I mean, you name it, they're there. The
Right.
Drake University Bulldogs are a 22 and 2 team right now in, I
Wow.
believe it's the Missouri Valley. So again, all over the place. Anything can happen come March. We're going to continue to follow it. Right. I've been locked in. DJ, you got to be locked in now. Any
I'm trying to
question,
keep track.
any questions about college basketball do you got so far? I went
I
through
don't
it kind of
necessarily,
speed runish like, but I'm here to answer all your questions.
I don't have a ton of questions. I think what fascinates me right now is the bubble because I'm essentially predicting a majority of the top 25 right now make make the tournament. Is that a pretty safe assumption as people ranked in the AP top 25? Not guaranteed, but are more likely than not going to get into the tournament.
Say that one more time for me. I was
I
watching.
said, is is it safe to assume that almost all, if not all, of the members of the AP Top 25 make it into the tournament?
I will say we're pretty much at this point in the season. Most of these teams are pretty safe, barring anything incredibly wild or crazy. Um,
Right,
Now, with that being said, a team potentially like a VCU or George Mason, let's say they make it, they're a team I will not guarantee that they make it into the tournament because the Atlantic 10 could be a one bid league if we're looking at the SEC being a 13 team league, right?
right.
With those 13 teams being, I mean, gosh. who knows at this point, right?
Right.
These 13 teams can end up being, but it's like that's what we're looking at. I mean, you're looking at Auburn, Alabama, Florida, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Missouri, Texas, not Texas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Mississippi State, right? Those are 9 teams right there. And there's a
Right.
chance Vanderbilt, Georgia, and Texas can get into the tournament. And they're Texas, Georgia, and Vanderbilt all have losing records in their conference right now.
Right.
But it's the way your schedule's constructed. It's the way your quad ones and quad twos end up shaking out. So a conference like the Atlantic 10, when you got two 20-win teams, right, might not get the nod because of how competitive these teams are right now. And I mean, even like VCU has some high quality wins. I mean, they beat Boston College, right? They
Right.
beat some other really good teams. They beat St. Joe's and Dayton and dominating their conference, and they beat Miami. But if it's one of those mid-major teams, the nod doesn't always go to them if they don't win their conference tournament. But being in the top 25 significantly helps your chances.
Okay. So then a follow up to that, what matters more to the people selecting these teams for the tournament? Does it come down to record, or if somebody has better ranked wins, but maybe not as impressive of a record, where does that play in? And I'll give you an example right now because I'm looking at a team like Michigan, right? I'm gonna pick from the Big Ten. That's what I'm more familiar with, and I'm like, well, their record's pretty good, but they don't have really anything that stands out that's super special. I mean, they have a ranked win over. I do believe they have a win over. They have a win over Wisconsin. Um, and that is. And do they have one more over Purdue? Did I see that? Yes, they have a home win against number 7 Purdue. And then I look at a team like Ohio State because that's who I follow the most. They have not as great of a record, right? Their record is 15-10. They're unranked, but they have some big wins this year over Kentucky. They have a win over Purdue in Illinois. So where is the line kind of drawn? Do you think between teams that can compete at the highest level, right? But don't necessarily have the record to show it or the consistency, if you will, to do it.
Yeah, with a team like Michigan, it's really all about who you beat at what time, right? So
Mm,
for Michigan, like you beat 22 Xavier and you beat them by 25. You beat number 11 Wisconsin on the road by 3. You lose by 1 to Oklahoma, doesn't really hurt you a ton. You beat the brakes off a ranked UCLA team at their place. Right? You split with Purdue. Um, right? You beat Rutgers, you beat Oregon. Oregon's a really good team. And in that case, like a team like Michigan, like it doesn't look like they have any sexy wins. But
right,
when you start talking about a team like Michigan who's been ranked all year, has played high at a high level, they're a team that's probably going to make it in. And I
right,
think probably be a 5 or a 6 seed and have a little bit of an uphill battle with a mid-major. But that's the way life kind of falls down for some of these teams. And I
right,
think that's where Michigan's ceiling could be. And right now they're on top of the Big Ten, but the Big Ten is also unpredictable. Like,
right,
you could have Purdue win it, you got Michigan State win it, Wisconsin could win it, Maryland can get hot. I mean, you could have Nebraska or Ohio State get hot, right? And
right,
and some things like that. So I think when we talk about who's going to make March Madness in the NCAA tournament, it's not always about, who have you beaten recently. It's about your whole body of work and who did you beat at the time of beating them, right?
right,
So like for Villanova, their big case is that they beat a top 10 UConn team and a top 10 St. John's team. That's really, really good for the record, right? Of making your argument. Um, so That's kind of where I see it, but nothing truly out of the ordinary. I think it's a great question. So, ooh, this Four Nations game is in overtime.
Well, I think that's a pretty good cue to wrap this one up, and
Wrap it
we'll.
up.
So Jacob, if I mean you're signing out on this, but um, well, Jacob will have the TikTok to this exact video for the exact game that he's watching up post post
Sure. Sweden.
Switzerland and Sweden.
Yep.
There you go.
Sweet. All right. This has been the deal with D and Jab being co-host Jake Bro. He's been DJ McCatherine. Subscribe to all platforms. We'll see you next.